Hi friends, you're here. I'm glad you're here with me today. Are you making it through this heat? Do you also have super high heat and humidity where you live? It has been so crazy hot here. But today we're talking about new makeup, mostly drugstore makeup. I did an Ulta haul, an Ulta order, my first one in a long time. I've said this before, but I try to steer clear from ordering off of Ulta's website because I feel like their packaging, the way they package their boxes is so risky. Like there are so many times where I get something and the stuff inside is broken. And just like always with Ulta, all these items that maybe amount to a couple handfuls were in this big box with very little packing materials, and there were little eyeshadow palettes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, cross your fingers. And they actually, fortunately, did not break. But the first reason I placed the order was I ran out of my ordinary caffeine solution for the under eye area. Now this has been a daily part of my skincare routine for a long time, but I go through this very slowly, probably 3 times slower than my other serums that I wear all over my face. I guess I'm just using less of this. I'm confining it to this area, but I do feel like it makes a difference, and I barely had any left and I really wanted to get that back again. So I got that. I think that's a great morning product. The second thing that really drove me to go ahead and do this haul was the fact that e.l.f. has 3 new bite-sized eyeshadow trios, and Ulta was where those were at. So I thought I definitely want to try those, and then lo and behold, I ran into some other things that needed to get tested too. So we're going to apply probably most of a full face today. Here's another thing that really intrigued me that I had my eye on earlier. It was something where like it was on Ulta's site, but for a while it wasn't available yet. Sometimes they do that. And I hadn't really seen it anywhere else. It's a product from L'Oreal called Skin Ink. This, they say, is the future of makeup. Infallible Skin Ink 2-in-1 Foundation Concealer. Up to 48-hour wear, yet light as ink, lasts until you decide to remove it. They say evens like a foundation, covers like a concealer, soft matte finish, lightweight feel. This is all coming from like the description on Ulta's website. But they say prep skin with a hydrating moisturizer or serum. I've done that. Shake the bottle. Working in small sections of the face, apply, then immediately blend with a brush. And it said lasts until you decide to remove. And they say remove by double cleansing with an oil-based product followed by a water-based cleanse. So they're giving you the impression that this is going to lock in, really last. You're not going to want it sitting on your skin like over here, a few dots of it, and then waiting to blend, because apparently it's something that's going to set. It says grips so hard you don't need a primer and self-setting. So I'm almost a little scared to try this, but I got the shade 130 Cool Rose. Let's work over small areas of the face and see what we get. We've got like a buck foot applicator here. I have no idea on amount or how potent this is actually going to be. But there's a couple swipes on the cheek, and then here's the immediate blend. They say buildable longwear. I'm not seeing like a total coverage description, like full coverage, medium coverage, or whatever. I've got that on all over that cheek with 2 swipes, and I would say that's medium coverage. But maybe the fact that it's buildable, they're trying to make you feel like it's whatever you want it to be. I'm gonna hit like nose and chin. It is certainly thin. This is blending with very little effort, but I'm excited to see on the wear today how well that actually does. I got it around nose and chin. I'm going to dip back in because I feel like I've gotten almost everything off the applicator. Couple of swipes over this side of the face, and this is my e.l.f. Duo Complexion brush that I'm using. I really question the whole idea of this being a foundation and concealer. That's what would make you think the coverage is really, really good, right? If it's something that could be your foundation and your concealer. It's certainly packaged a lot like concealer, and I can see why it would give you that thought, but this isn't coming off quite as potent in the coverage department as I thought it would. Let's finish off here with the forehead, and then we should have the whole face. I think the shade I got is very good for my skin tone. Having in just a second, kitten. Okay, just kind of pressing it in there on my skin. I was well moisturized underneath. I still feel kind of tacky, but I don't think that's probably because of this product. But looking at the skin all over right now, I feel like it's a classic medium coverage with what I put on. I didn't feel like I did a real light application. I mean, I felt like it was ample, honestly. And I'm seeing freckles. I'm seeing under eye. Not too bad on redness. Next time I try this, I might try not patching it around and just see if it truly is setting that fast. But I didn't have any issues blending or feel like it was even coming close to like locking down on my skin too quickly. Grips so hard you don't need a primer. I did not put on a primer today. Waterproof, sweat-proof, humidity-proof. So we'll see how this goes today. I'll keep an eye on it today, but what will really tell me more is working this in with some products that are more familiar to me and then see what kind of staying power I get. But I would say it's pretty. It's looking nice, but I definitely question whether this would be both foundation and concealer for me. Not for my expectations anyway. But the good news is we do have a new concealer that I wanted to try. Now this is Tarte's Stick Concealer. I'd seen some questions from you guys asking about this, several of you, and I wanted to try this as well. I got the shade 20B Light. More big staying power claims here. 24-hour long wear, crease proof, waterproof, shape tape blur concealer stick. Got like a little diamond shape, you see that? So yeah, we're just gonna pop this on and see how it goes with some swipes. I'm just going to swipe it over the areas where I need it. I kind of want more in the inner corner there. And we'll see if this ended up being too much or just right. I love a good stick concealer though, and I feel like the makeup landscape is sort of hurting for a lot of good sticks. So I'm taking my little tip of this e.l.f. Duo brush, blending it in a little, getting those hard to reach areas. Seems like it's blending easily. Definitely not like one of those dry, hard to work with sticks of the past. Smoothing around my skin really easily. This tone seems good. I got it based on my shade in the Tarte Shape Tape Liquid Concealer. I have it in the light, so that's a rough blend. And I'm going to take the bigger side of my brush and kind of tap in. Coverage seems really good. I'm wondering if it's as much as a regular Shape Tape. I feel like the application with a stick concealer ends up being more targeted. Like it's gonna blend in where you put it, whereas a lot of times a liquid concealer, you'll put a dot and that dot will inevitably spread over more surface area. This is kind of like put it where you definitely want it because that's where it's getting blended in. What gets applied here isn't really necessarily gonna stretch to like over here. Okay, blended in, it looks amazing, actually. It doesn't look makeup-y at all, so that's impressive. I do feel like I have coverage and brightness, although I'd like to see if I could build just a little bit on like this part of the under eye, just to see. And I might look this up on the website for a little more description. Just another couple swipes right here. This is an only at Ulta product, they say. It says, why choose between coverage and skincare when you can have both? It does feel really thin, but it says 50% skin-loving ingredients, smooths and hydrates. The diamond tip is meant to hug inner corners, melts in like butter. Seeing if it's buildable. I think that for sure built the coverage there and still doesn't look like a lot. Hyaluronic acid is in this. My first thought on this is I really like it. I enjoy sticks. I think they're a very foolproof application and I feel like I got a covered look but not a natural looking under eye by any means with that. Now is the face kind of setting after this has been sitting on it for a while, because they did say self-setting. Again, I can't tell if it's the amount of moisturizer I had on underneath, but I still feel kind of just a little tacky to the touch. Not outrageously so. Like I don't think that foundation added a whole bunch of moisture, but my skin is just something I'd want to set right now. The next new thing I got, I just didn't feel like I could overlook this one. The Infallible Blur-fection loose powder. So up to 24-hour blurring, brightening, loose setting powder. This is something that our girl Shelby Ann on TikTok has been raving about. I got the light pink shade and I guess it's really hard to find, but now Ulta is carrying it. Now how much is in here? Because this feels so small compared to other setting powders. This is 0.21 ounces or 6 grams. Wet n Wild 0.7 ounces and 20 grams. So yeah, you are getting significantly less here. But people say, oh, this powder is just next level amazing. There's nothing fancy about the packaging. You're gonna take off this sticker. There's just some holes there. There's no sifter lock or anything. We'll tap some into our lid. So definitely wanna see how this looks up on the under eye. It looks like a really light pink. The Wet n Wild is kind of like that. Texture of the powder feels pretty thin, like it's an extremely fine powder. maybe more fine than the Wet n Wild, although I've gotten along really, really well with the Wet n Wild. So this is going to have to do amazing to really impress me over that, because now it's evident to me that you're getting more with the Wet n Wild too. It's a better value all around, cheaper. You can see I've really applied it kind of in excess on the under eye with the knowledge that I'll sweep some away. Take my Morphe under eye bullet brush here. A little technique I call microwaving. How do we look? Do we look blurred? I think we look even more brightened. I think that's the main thing that I immediately take away, is that I look more brightened on my under eye. I also got it, I guess, on my T-zone a little. I definitely feel like smooth. I don't feel tacky at all. Looking up close, as you probably should expect with powders, I look a little drier on my under eye, but it's not terribly dry, actually. I really do like the brightening effect. I think that did a really good job. Would we maybe be due for a side-by-side with this and the Wet n Wild in a future video? If anything else is on my brush, I'm just kind of dabbing it around on my skin, because I did kind of feel like I needed some setting powder elsewhere. It actually helped a little bit. Okay, so far, interesting products with big claims. They all have huge staying power claims. I don't know that this is doing head and shoulders brighter than my Wet n Wild, or even Maybelline Fit Me in Fair. I mean, I know that's not a pink tone powder, but that still is like very, very brightening, and this isn't exactly super pinky. You can get a richer tone of this pink, though, if that's something you want. The thing that I've been most impressed with really so far has probably been this stick concealer. I like the buildable quality of it, but the sort of invisible look of it. But I really did feel like it was covering. When I say invisible, I mean it's not building up a thick texture on my skin that I can really see. Next thing I got, this I did not even order, okay? I double checked the little packing list. I did not order this. I don't know if this was a free gift I didn't know about, but they threw in a Maybelline Sun Kisser blush in the shade Electric Bronze. I do have one of these in a more blushy shade. It's kind of like a more sheer or lighter take on a Tarte Maneater Blush and Glow. I'm not sure what this goldeny one really would be like, but I have that. I might use some of that. Ooh, I also got this brush from e.l.f. I did not know this was a thing, the Stain and Tint blending brush, and I had recently gotten their stains, so I thought I might use that with one of those. Meanwhile, I guess I'll just grab a bronzer I already have. Here's what we'll do. We'll use this Infallible Fresh Wear bronzer in medium, and then we'll use this brush to apply one of those stains and see how well this brush works, and then maybe use this for a little bit of glow on top. Angled brush coming in. So far, everything I've put on my skin has pretty much had some kind of major staying power claim. Even this bronzer, you know, 24-hour wear, I don't know. And they know nobody really wants to find that out. We just want to know it's going to wear a long time. So they got to give us something, right? I don't love this bronzer more than like Wet Shady Beaches from Wet n Wild, but it's all right. And it is in my rotation. I use it occasionally. It's interesting that that brush, though, for the e.l.f. stain was on Ulta's website, and like I ordered the stains from e.l.f.'s website when they were pretty new, and e.l.f. wasn't carrying any kind of brush like that. I don't know when they snuck that in. So I was in Walmart the other day. I needed a new pool brush attachment thing because ours broke off. And I was getting that, and I was getting like, I don't know, bananas. And I had all 3 kids with me, but I was like, I'm still gonna cruise through the makeup aisle just to see like what's up here. Now, all of the makeup in this Walmart that I usually go to is now like locked up behind glass doors. And I tell you, I'm wondering if sales might be suffering because of this, because I never see anybody in the makeup aisles. Ever. I don't see any like Walmart staff people anywhere near it, and I know you gotta like ring or something to get assistance, but it's like, I'm a browser, you know. If I were gonna shop, I might want to get a few things from a few different brands. Do I say, hey, stay with me, or do I go in there and like, I could see myself writing down the different things that I needed, like going through, scoping out, figuring it out. But what if I want to hold the thing, you know? What if I want to look at something on the packaging? Is this person just gonna have to be asked to stay with me? Like, I just don't like this. If you knew you needed 1 or 2 certain specific things, yeah, but this is totally taking away anyone's desire probably to impulse buy makeup. Like, how are you gonna make impulse buys? You're not, because you have to think it out, and you have to think if it's worth it for you to either call in a person or ask that person to hang around while you might pick something else up. Like, I just don't know. I don't see it lasting for the long haul. I love that it's preserving products, and if I do need something from Walmart, I'll order it in a delivery order, because those shoppers I'm sure have access access to just be able to unlock things and grab it. I'm not having to like waste somebody's time and I've thought out what I want. But sometimes you want to browse, you know? Sometimes you want to browse. They're just making the browsing and buying thing really hard. But it's nice that people can't break into the products. That's nice. Maybe they could stop doing this and say, hey, we'll undo these things if you guys can just promise to be good and don't break into the makeup and don't take the makeup without paying for it, doggone it. Can all Walmart makeup shoppers just sign something? I know that's not how it works, but dang. I'm gonna bust out this brush. What shape is she? She's flattened out a little bit. There's a little more height at the back of the brush, a very gentle like taper there. So you'd definitely be applying this in kind of a dabbing motion. That's what this shape I think is lending itself to, not necessarily a buff. So let's grab one of these little elf guys. I've got a couple different shades. I'm gonna do the one that's like the classic Benetint shade, the red. Left on red is what it's called. Like the packaging, like the size of the doe foot. Give myself a couple little dabs. Here's their special brush. I like that. It's blending it really quick, and I think a specialized brush for this purpose is probably pretty good. A good idea for people. I'm trying to decide if I like it any better than my Sephora 56. I'm almost wishing it was a little fuller. I think it's doing the job. You know, you might say fuller, Em. It does seem wider than the 56, yes, but thickness-wise, if you turn it sideways, this isn't very dense. The Sephora one has more density. Trying to make sure I got that really well blended. Did I get it like higher on this cheek somehow? I think my takeaway on this brush is that it's okay. It does pretty good, but I'm not like blown away. Even if you wanted to stay with e.l.f. products, I think the Duo Complexion brush would feel even better blending out, just having a little more width, thickness, more size to it, as opposed to this oblong size. This doesn't really matter to me so much as having a little more thickness going this way. But anywho, I need to do brows, and I don't have anything new for that, so I'm gonna do that, and then we have some fun eye things to chat about. Oh wait, I said I was doing this. I said I was doing this sun kisser thing that I didn't ask for. I wonder if there was a free gift I didn't know about. This is the shade Electric Bronze. That's what it's looking like. I think it's basically going to function kind of like highlighter. I can tell as I blended it out, it's got a little fine sparkle going on. Sorry, I had to go unload my memory card. What I was saying was, I don't want too much of this applied in any one area, so I'm going to get it on my hand first. Do some wide strokes there. Go in with my Sephora 56. And the reason why I'm putting it on now, kind of like in a highlighter step as opposed to bronzer, is because I just don't think it's that pigmented for bronzer. It's more so walking that line between highlight and light bronze. So getting some on. Hardly any left on my hand for the cheeks now. Did it add some glow? Yes. I'm just not wild about it, okay? Maybe if I had more of a tan, I'd feel like it was contrasting or really popping off my skin in some way. Here, I just feel like I'm trying to make sure I blend it in such a way that it doesn't look patchy or out of place. But yeah, it's okay. Now I'm gonna do brows. I just used the Precisely My Brow Pencil and the Precisely My Brow Wax. Isn't that what it's called? The little setting product. Yeah, shade 4 in both. That's just a duo of products that work well together. I can grab for them quickly. I know they're gonna work. The skinny pencil is good. However, as I've said many times, there are tons of good skinny pencils in the drugstore. You don't have to buy Benefit. But yeah, let's talk about these 3 new quads. They're all neutral, but just adding a little something extra to e.l.f.'s bite-size range. The first one here, called Cold Brew, is an all-matte quad, and you might be thinking, man, Em, that looks a whole lot like the one called Love You a Latte. I Love You a Latte. Because after the original launch of these, they did eventually put out this all-matte one. Now, as you can tell side by side, this is the I Love You a Latte, and Cold Brew is just all in all a little cooler. So they decided to put out an all-matte cooler spread. I think that will probably create a really good look, a very classic, kind of naturally shadowed look, but I haven't used that yet on my eyes. Then we have Total Smokeshow. This one is gonna be your smoky eye type of palette. You're getting a couple of shimmers, a matte, and then what seems to be a pretty loud shimmer right here, but a fully pigmented one. So that's an option. And then the third one is called Take Your Pink. This is looking soft. This is looking pretty natural. I'm very interested to see if that deepest shade is going to provide a lot of contrast. They did give us a nice mid-tone in here, and then two shimmers, one softer, one maybe a little more metallic, possibly. This is the one I think I'm going to use today. It's kind of the one I'm most curious about. I'm pretty sure the looks these are going to turn out, although expect to see them in upcoming videos, but for right now, we're going to use this one. I've already got my Wet n Wild Mega Last Eye Primer on, and I want to see how this color right here works as a soft crease, okay? So with the bite-sized quads, I've always been a fan of their pigment level. I like the textures of the eyeshadows, but in some of the original ones, I felt like they kind of lacked on mid-tones. Like they gave us 4 shades and there would usually be something dark, and then there would be several lighter shades, or maybe even a couple of dark shades. But Hard Candy actually was doing the better job in the drugstore, I thought, of giving us a really well-rounded quad that gave you absolutely everything. Let me show you. For example, here's e.l.f.'s Cream and Sugar, okay? Very identifiable, lots of people know this one. 3 lights and a dark. 2 shimmers here, they're not really going to help you set that crease up. Like, I know I have put that in my crease at times, but it's a big jump, right, between those shades. Meanwhile, the Hard Candy Moods quads, this is the one called Bear, you're getting that mid-tone matte. A shimmer here, a shimmer there, and a deep shade. And every one of them that I have is well laid out with the mindset of giving you something kind of in the middle, right? But a lot of e.l.f.'s don't do that as well, but this one seems like it's doing it. So we're again just blending up a little bit with that mid-tone. I like to see this shade shearing out. I think it looks pretty. Now this color right here is like a soft shimmer. Ooh, really pretty. I'd take a little bit of that. And it's giving sort of a peachiness as well. It does have pigment, so I wouldn't apply it too terribly thick. That's getting a little glow up there. I like the texture. Next, I'm going to come in with this shade right here at the end. I'm sticking with the same brush I've been using all along and work this into the crease, because this is as dark as it gets. And I just thought some of you might wonder, well, how dramatic is that one going to look on my eyes? Is it going to be too pinky? It seems like really muted in terms of the idea of pink. Just blending it mostly in the outer corner. You can see it's deepening the crease as a whole. I'd like to see some of that come down onto my lid. Talking about this end shade right here. Get a little bit on that Morphe 303. So it's about as deep as I was expecting. I think it's able to contrast with the other shades in the quad, but it's not taking anything too deep and dark. And of course, these are just quads. You could combine quads, you could bring in other outside shades, but I think it's helpful to know what this and this alone is going to turn out for you if you're considering buying it. I might stick with that same brush and see what some of this is going to do. Okay, that felt a little drier to the touch than this other shimmer, but we'll see here how she does with the brush. Looks almost rose gold. Pretty soft application. Not applying very strong and full on with the brush. Having trouble clinging even though there is a primer on there. That's okay, we'll try this shade with the finger. Can you see it now? Popping off a little bit. I'm getting the feeling that if this shade has to overlap with a lot of powder, it's not going to want to show up much at all. I'm not asking it to overlap fully, just a little bit of overlap. I'm not loving that shade. Grabbing my smaller Morphe brush, the 302, this texture, quite good right here. Get a little bit of that, and we'll get brightness, a little more opaque color on the inner part of the lid there. But just know, that's like a step down from being a full-on champagne-y shimmer. So your contrast is still kind of low with this quad. And you can tell by looking at it, you can tell all these shades are kind of close to one another. And that can make blending and application a bit more foolproof. But at the same time, you know, things aren't really popping one shade to the next. I'm not saying that as a criticism, just an observation. I'm applying a little bit more of the deeper color right here. Just seeing how she builds. pretty soft, pretty everyday friendly if that's what you're looking for. I'm not in love with this texture here just because I think even off of the finger it wasn't like shockingly great, but it's a little better than the brush application. I do really like the softness here. It's like a peachy sheen. It looked very bright and opaque on my finger there, but off of a brush it's a little softer, you know, but makes a nice highlight. And I do really like the two mattes in there as well. Is it the biggest home run of an eyeshadow quad I've ever used? No, but is it okay? Is it good? Is it everyday friendly? I would say yes. Very eager to try these other two and see which one of these might be my top pick. Now, another eye thing that I got that I absolutely could not ignore. Once I saw it, I was like, oh, they've got new L'Oreal Lace Shadow Sticks. I have said for months how I would like to see them expand their shade range because they have such a great product here, and they now have a smoky range of the Lace Shadow Sticks. So these are sold for $12.99. They're not really a cheap product. I mean, when I see a shadow stick, I would think $7, $8, $12.99. Okay, but I did get these buy one, get one 50% off, and that was nice. So everything in the original range was kind of light to medium tones, very neutral, kind of softer shades. We had Brown Abyss as our sole deeper option in that original range. And here they've brought us depth, but they haven't really brought us a lot of different colors. I got the two shades that seemed somewhat colorful. There's an emerald called Twilight Emerald, and then I got Starry Bordeaux, like a burgundy. The other shades offered, they've got one called All Night Black that seems to be a pure black. They've got a taupe, what looks like a deep charcoal, and then maybe a little bit lighter charcoal. So 6 new shades total. I think I'm gonna work the Starry Bordeaux into this look a little bit as maybe some lazy liner, smudge it, whatever. This is an impeccable formula. This is maybe the single best shadow stick formula I've ever used. It immediately thins out when it hits the skin, feels like don't grip your product. I know this is brand new, but all my other ones work the same way. You don't need to apply any pressure to get this to show up, and they feel actually somewhat cooling. You might want to see swatches. There's the Starry Bordeaux. Looking kind of brownish burgundy, honestly. Not a lot of like plummy purple. I would have liked to have seen a purple come out in this new range, and a navy. Like maybe they're still holding out for some, you know, wintertime jewel tones. I don't know. But let's swatch the emerald. Okay, that looks good. Very dark, but I think you can see the greenish intensity there. And there's shimmer in these. It would appear by what they're showing me online that there's shimmer in all of these except maybe that black, the one called All Night Black. But a little sheen here too in the Bordeaux. I just thought this might mesh kind of with the shadow quad that I've got on. I'm just going over it a little bit with my finger to keep it nice and soft. So like applying and then just gently dabbing. And then maybe a little bit down here. I can tell, you know, these are dark. They are darker than the offerings in the original launch of these. So I don't want to go too much with it. But yeah, if they put out a navy and a rich plum, that would be great to just have. Okay, see, easy application, the easiest way to do liner. I love stuff like that. So I just finished that look with some mascara. I used the e.l.f. Lash Extender on the lower lashes and some CoverGirl Exhibitionist Stretch and Strengthen on the upper lashes, and it really built today. But another thing that I sometimes fail to mention about these shadow sticks, which I'm sure you already know, but they can definitely be used like an eyeshadow, you know, applied all over the lid if you want to, put on the lid, blend it out. These would be some of the easiest to do that with, probably this formula to blend and work with. Sorry, I'm opening something here. But I just happen to really like them in the liner sense. I think they work well. But last thing I got was one of these little CoverGirl Clean Fresh balms. They now have an SPF 15. They had a peachy color and then this pink called You Make Me Blush. These, generally speaking, are a great tinted lip balm formula. I've loved them so much. But I thought, let's try this kind with the SPF. And immediately, as I twist that up, you know what that reminds me of? Do you guys remember like candy lip balms? They were like kind of chalky and they looked exactly like that shape, and they'd be standing in a little base. Does anybody remember that? Let's put this on. I have nothing else on my lips right now, so we'll see. I'm really seeing some pink. Ooh. It's kind of light and bubblegummy, chalky a little bit. Doggone it, I'm not a fan. I was hoping it'd be a little deeper, but I try to work with things. I really do. Let's put on a little bit. Okay, we're gonna go back. Center of the lip mainly. Okay. There she is. And then work in some lip liner. I feel like this is just going to blend really easily. Mauve Aside from e.l.f. Get that on the outsides and kind of work it in. But if we're just talking like, oh, here's an SPF tinted lip balm, just throw it on outside at the pool. No, I would not like be content to just have that shade all over my lips. The texture is great. Feels good, just like the other CoverGirl balms did. But this shade can't hold a candle to some of the other shades in the regular line. Mushing it around. Okay. Maybe that's actually kind of pretty. Might even add a little more. We worked with that. Okay, so what are the favorites from what we've used? I feel like every complexion thing deserves a lot of future shots, you know, because this is just one time that I'm putting it on. I would say this is not quite as heavy duty in the coverage department as I was expecting, but I do like the lightness of it. We'll see if I have really amazing staying power all day, but it was super easy to blend. And I think in terms of my finished look, like it did well for us as a base product. The most immediately wowing thing to me out of these three was definitely the concealer. I just liked how that swiped on. It's a really nice texture. I thought it covered well. It did indeed build on itself, but it never looked heavy, and even being set by powder, I don't feel like it looks too heavy. So powder was good, very brightening, definitely delivered on brightness, but so do a lot of other things. This, I didn't ask for this, but I'm just kind of like, I don't need that product really. The Sun Kisser blush in that electric bronze shade. It gave my skin a little extra glow, but kind of one of those, what do you do with it products. Was definitely excited to get these e.l.f. quads, and I feel like this pinky toned one, or the one called Take Your Pink, is giving that barely there, not trying too hard shadow look that a lot of people want these days. So I get that. I'm not in love with the texture of that shade right there, that shimmer, but all in all, it's an easy casual look. I'm pumped to try these. I think a lot of people are gonna like this cold brew. If you liked I Love You a Latte, again, it's very, very close, just a little cooler, but I'll be trying that on my eyes, and I'll also be trying the Smokeshow one too. Shadow sticks, can't go wrong with a Lay shadow stick, so I'm glad to see those come out in a couple of actual colors. The lip balm, we made it work. We made it work. So thank you guys so much for your time today. I hope you enjoyed this little try on, and I'll see you soon. I love you. Bye.